My name is Jana Berahman from Kirkland, Washington. In my research, I learned that the Cap and Invest program sets an emissions cap over time to ensure Washington meets intended greenhouse gas reduction commitments. Which industries would this target and have a large impact on? And how can the legislator enact laws that ensure that it is done in a fiscally responsible way?
So the largest emitter of carbon dioxide emissions is our transportation sector, but it's not the only one. There's a couple of ways of doing that accounting. You can do it at the well or you can do it at the wheel, meaning that you can make sure that people have the permits they need to comply with the policy when it's kind of pulled out of the ground. In this case, at the refineries, because we don't drill for oil in Washington state. Or you can try and track down everyone and get the emissions as it comes out of their tailpipe. That's much more difficult. It's much more paperwork. It's much more involved. And so what we do is we require compliance when it comes in through the facilities. So it's not the only source of emissions. There's also emissions in our electricity sector, in our heating sectors. There's some high greenhouse gas. There's some very high greenhouse gas equivalent gases like HFCs, refrigerants, etc. And so we're looking at all of those as well.
Great question, Jenna, and appreciate you asking. Climate Commitment Act is a very critical issue and policy for the state of Washington. It really impacts a lot of the energy generation systems across our state, whether that's those into nuclear, hydro, or even the generation of solar and wind farms that are going on in our state. Anything that generates electricity that goes in our critical system of the Western grid, we call it, is really going to be impacted by the Climate Commitment Act. This also goes into some manufacturing places like aluminum plants or those high functional areas, even down in my district, which is the world's capital of fry, capital of the world. We have a lot of potatoes that come through our distributors that make the French fries that you see in McDonald's and Wendy's. They're going to be impacted by this. And what this means is when we produce that part with the power, it's the emissions that come after the generation of the manufacturing and that processing we do in our plants. This gets us to the place where we can look at a cap and trade, and that's where we see in a market that we're looking at where those emissions are going. So some of the policies that you were questioning on is we look at how much are emitting every year, what products are going to be emitting more, how far can we do that, and how much should we be emitting when we're doing this. A lot of this funding goes back into those systems to allow us to reduce that emissions, to make it cleaner, better in our manufacturing, to allow us to have the cleanest air in the state, and even lead the nation in the global environment of understanding how we can use technology to the best way we can to reduce the emissions into our climate. And that's what really the goals of the Climate Commitment Act is for.